everyone to our eBay program, our second eBay program. Um, Thank you for coming. I'd like to thank our Whittier Foundation for sponsoring this program and our other programs that we've had. And I'd like to give it now to Jason Daly, our children's librarian. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. Hopefully we'll have a few more people joining us. I think we just saw one other person pop in. So thank you for joining me tonight. And tonight I'm going to be talking about some basics of buying and selling on eBay. I've been buying and selling on eBay for more than 10 years, and I'm fairly experienced, but there are still quite a few things I don't know. So if you ask me a question and I don't know the answer, I'll be happy to research it for you and let you know later. This is probably geared more toward the casual seller, which is what I am. I sell maybe a few items a month at most, rather than someone who's looking to, for example, run a business on eBay. That's a little probably a bit beyond my knowledge base, but if you're new to eBay and you're looking to do that, you may still get a few useful tips here, but you'll probably have to do a little bit more research on your own, because I'm not a huge volume seller. I'm going to give you show you the basics of how to sell, how to create a listing, and give you some tips that might get you a little bit better results for your sales and things like that tonight. So what I'll be doing for the most part tonight, I will be mostly sharing my screen with you, and I'll be going back and forth between a PowerPoint presentation and the eBay page itself. And hopefully you have hopefully you received an email from me with some information, a sheet I have of various tips, and a version of the PowerPoint presentation where you can take notes if you want to. If not, let me know and I can send that to you later. So now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. We want to do this one here, screen, and we are going to go to, here is our eBay logo. Let me move something on my screen here real quickly. So tonight, we're going to talk about selling on eBay. We're going to start with how to list items. We're going to assume you already have, if you're looking to sell, we're going to assume you're already registered for eBay. I sent you a link for how to do that if you have not registered yet. And I've also included some information in yesterday's presentation as well about that, which is recorded and available on YouTube. So listing items. So first of all, when you list your item, try to know as much about what your item is. And the more specific you can get it, the better off you're going to be. So for example, if you know you have an antique lamp, that's great, but there's going to be a lot of those for sale. So try to know what brand it is, what it's made out of, where it came from, who manufactured it, things like that, what year it's from, if possible, or era. Those will be helpful in having people find your item. So I'm just going to give you an example. So if you look for, let's see, antique lamp, you're now going to get 26,390 listings, and probably no one's going to want to look through all those listings. So you're going to want to have something about the era it's from, the brand, what it's made out of, things like that, to narrow it down a little bit. Otherwise, people may never find your listing. Choose the right category. You will notice things are listed in an individual category. So for example, you can see over here all the categories that are available. Some of them are in antiques, some of them are in decorative arts, some of them are in home and garden, collectibles, and so on. So if you list your thing in the wrong category, people may do a search for a specific category and they might not find your item. So for example, if you have an antique lamp for sale, you're going to click on, people may click on antiques over here to narrow it down a little bit. Oh, there's still 58,000 items. So we still have a lot. So So choose your category, and if you're not sure what category to put something in, look for other similar listings. Click on one of those listings, and you can see up at the top here, listed in category antiques, decorative arts, lamps. So now you know that that's a category that's used. Look at a few more listings, see what category they're listed in, and use whatever category other people on eBay are using to list that particular item. So before you list your item, look at other similar items, see what category they're in, and that's how you can figure out the best category to list your item in. Some people may occasionally miss your item, as I said, if you list it in the wrong category. Write a good title. You have 80 characters in your title, a maximum of 80 characters. That includes spaces, that includes punctuation, that includes letters, anything. You have a maximum of 80 characters. And in your title, you want to try and be fairly general and also fairly specific. So for example, you do want to have the words, if you're selling an antique lamp, you do want to have the words antique lamp in there. But you also want to have, if you know the maker, you want to have the maker's name. If you know what year it's produced, you want to have that in there. So that if people are looking for the broad range, the antique lamp, and they just search that, they're going to find they might find your listing. There's a lot of listings, so they might not, but they'll at least have a chance of finding it if they search for those keywords, antique lamp. But if they're searching for the specific brand or the specific maker, and they search for those words, they will also find those. So try to have both general and specific things in your title. I know it's only 80 characters, it's hard, but try to get as many of those things in as possible. If you put your entire description and you have some extra characters available, try to come up with some other interesting words people might look for. So if you're doing antique lamp, maybe throw the word vintage in there as well. Vintage and antique technically mean different things, but if someone's looking for an old lamp, they might search one or the other or both. So throw those extra keywords in there if you have extra space. Now, borrow titles from successful sales. So look at things that have sold in the past and use the same or similar titles. Because people found that other item if it's sold for a good price. So look at what words other people have used for a similar item, borrow those, and make your description either the same or similar. And as I said, include relevant or attractive keywords. So for example, look at a lot of other listings, see if there's certain extra words people are throwing in. The example I gave you is you might have an antique item for sale, but throw the word vintage in there too, because some people use those words interchangeably, even though they technically have different meanings. So those are a few things you can do when you're listing your items to make your description better. The one I really want to focus on is make sure you look at a lot of other listings, because you might forget something that you should put in that description. And if you look at the other listings, that will remind you, oh wait, I should have put that word in. And that will help you write a better title, your 80-word title. Next up, we're going to talk about an item description. So take a little time on your description, and I'll show you what a description looks like. So you'll see these here, these things that you see here, these are the titles. They have a maximum of 80 characters. Your description, when you click on an item, you will now be able to scroll down and you will see an area where there is a description of the item here. Descriptions can be pretty much as long as you want them to be. You might not want to make them too long because people will probably not read all of them, but don't make them too short either. Try to answer the questions you think people will have. What do people want to know about this item? And answer those questions in the description. So for example, some of the things you're going to look at, what the item is, describe it as much as you can, what the title or name of it, if it has one, if it's a certain model of something, or the title of a piece of an artwork you're selling, anything like that. If it's some particular collectible, try and figure out what the name of that particular collectible is. Like, for example, if you collect, say, some sort of little figurines, and you're selling one, try to make sure you figure out what the specific name of that exact figurine is so that you can list that, because people who know about that thing will put in that name if they're looking for it. And if it's not in the title or description, they won't find it. Who is the maker, author, or artist? Any identifying marks. So for example, if you don't know the maker, you did some research and you weren't able to figure that out, but you see that there's some initials on it, put those initials in. Someone who knows about those things may know what those initials are and may be more likely to bid on it. What it's made of. You may not always know, but try to figure that out, dimensions, color, etc. Those can be important depending on what you're selling, but tell people how big the thing is. Your pictures may tell you that, but if you don't put anything in the picture for scale, sometimes it's hard to tell how big things are, and people are going to want to know. So, this lamp is 18 inches tall or whatever. So that will be helpful. Carefully and honestly describe the condition. And this I want to talk a little bit more about. It's very important on eBay to make sure that people know exactly what they're getting. You do not want unhappy buyers making claims that you sent them something that was not as described, because they're going to make a claim through either eBay or PayPal if they pay with PayPal. In most cases, they will side with the buyer. So make sure you are describing it very carefully. You're examining it very carefully to make sure there's any damage or any flaws. You're describing that damage and those flaws in the description so people will know what is wrong with this item. Don't try to hide them. And if anything, err on the side of describing them as being maybe a little bit worse than they are rather than downplaying them, because it's better to have something that someone thinks is in a little bit worse condition than it really is, and they get getting a little bit lower price for it, than having someone buy something. It's better to have someone buying something that's in a little bit better condition than they think it's going to be in and being pleasantly surprised and maybe getting a slightly lower price for it, versus downplaying the flaws and having someone buy the item and then be disappointed with the condition and make a claim against you through PayPal or eBay saying, this person wasn't honest about the condition of this thing. It's more damaged and more worn out than I thought it was, and I want my money back. That's a huge headache. You may have to deal with return shipping. You may have to just give them their money back. You may have to give them a partial refund. It's a real pain to deal with. You don't want to deal with it. You may get negative feedback, which you don't want. So I would recommend, when in doubt, leaning a little bit toward overplaying any damage or wear on an item. If you're dealing with something that is, for example, something collectible like coins, baseball cards, anything like that have established grading systems, and you're not an expert in that grading system, then don't claim a grade. Or if you are going to, say, I think this might be this grade, and err on the side of going a little bit lower than you think it is. Because again, you don't want someone getting something and who's a real expert and looking at it and saying, no, this doesn't meet the grade that I was promised. List any special features or history. This can be thrown in there just for interest, but if you don't have documentation for it, you may not want to play it up too much. If you have some like old American flag and, your family history going back generations says it belonged to Abraham Lincoln, but you don't have any proof of that, don't list it as a flag owned by Abraham Lincoln, because, honestly, it's probably not. It's probably just a family legend. So you can list those little special features and history in there, but don't overplay it or promise anything if you can't prove it. Next up, we're going to talk about photos. So, let me show you also a listing I've started here. I have it saved in my drafts. I started doing this today. So I'm going to go to my eBay. I'll show you where all these things are located later, but and I'm going to go to all selling, and I'm going to look at my drafts. And this is one I started working on today, just as a sample. So usually when you go to sell something, even if you're already signed in, it will ask you to sign in again, just for a little bit of extra security. So let me sign in here. Sorry, this is a little slow. Okay, now I have my listing you can see I'm doing here. Here's my title. And when you type your title, it will tell you how many characters you have left. You see it says right here, 3 characters left. So you can count down, you can take things out and put them in as you want. You can put in a subtitle for $1.50. I don't see people using that very much. You see I've chosen my category as toys and hobbies, puzzles, contemporary puzzles, jigsaw puzzles. You can change your category. You can list in multiple categories, but usually there's an additional small fee associated with that. I don't recommend it unless there's a really good reason to do so. Your condition is going to be new or used in most cases. Some categories will give you more condition options. Like I think books gives you more condition options. Most things are just new or used. You can put a condition description here. If you choose to do that, that's fine, but I recommend also putting it in the description because many people won't really look at the condition description. People tend to look at the description of the item to find out all the information they need about that item. Now you have your photos. You can add up to 12 photos. In many cases, there's no reason to necessarily add 12 photos. Sometimes you only need 1 or 2. But if you need 12, you can add up to 12. And let me talk a little bit about photos. So for example, put the most complete photo first. So for example, I have something saved in my my eBay that I'll show you as a good example of this if I can find it. So I'm going to go back to my eBay here. I'm going to try and find this item. It is, sorry, I should have found this beforehand. I found it today. And then, so basically, it's, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I think it might have been something that ended already. But what it is someone listed a lot or a collection of board games. I'm a board game enthusiast. I buy and sell a lot of board games. So that's something I'm always looking for. It was a collection of like 5 or 6 board games. The picture only showed 1 game. So if someone's just scrolling through really quickly, glancing at photos and they see that picture and they don't bother to read the title because they're just scrolling through in a hurry, they're going to think that's a listing for just 1 game. They're going to say, oh, I'm not interested in that game. They're going to pass by, not really realizing that it's actually a collection of 5 or 6 games. So what you want to do is if you're going to sell a group of things together, you want your first photo to be a list of a photo of the entire group of items. So if people are scrolling through quickly, they'll know that this is like several things they're buying all together in one group rather than just one item. So if you want to show details of the item, that's great, but don't make it your first photo. If you're selling just a single item by itself, get a good shot that shows the entire item. And then you can put in more photos later with details. But if you put a photo of the detail, like say if you're selling your lamp, you put a photo of just the base of the lamp, that's not going to catch people's eye as much as the picture of the entire lamp. So make sure that first photo, that is, let me go back to my listing here. Sorry, all these windows are popping down here and bothering me. Okay, so. Okay, so here's my listing again. So my first photo is going to be one that shows the front, probably the front cover of the puzzle box. So I have some photos here that I've brought up as examples that I'm going to show you. Well, first let's go through a couple other things here. Make sure photos are well lighted and focused and show important details. So I'm going to show you a few photos I took today and see what you think. So this is a photo I took of this thing. Not a great photo. It's kind of small. It doesn't really fill the frame. There's a really busy background that's brighter than the item. My hand's in it. just kind of a messy photo, not a good one. It doesn't really draw the attention to that item because there's so much else going on in the photo. Here's a photo I took in kind of a dark corner. Not much light on it. It came out super blurry. That's not a good photo. Sometimes you actually will see people put photos like this on their eBay listings. It's terrible. This one here is maybe more the kind of thing you're looking for. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a studio quality photo, but you can see the item clearly. It comes fairly close to filling the frame. It's got a fairly neutral background, so it's going to draw the eye to that item. Now here's the second photo I would put on is the back of the box. Now this one, I don't like as much because there's not a lot of contrast with the background. I would probably prefer this one on a darker background. In fact, what I often use to take my photos is I have a one of the mats that you can build a puzzle on, and then you roll it up. It's black and it's got kind of a velvety surface. So most things, unless they're very dark colors, show off against it really well. And that's what I use to take most of my photos on. Just find something like that, some sort of flat surface you can lay out. It could even be a sheet. This one here I took on a sheet. Third photo shows what's inside the box. That's probably enough photos for this item. Now, if there was a big hole punched in the box, I would also take a close-up of that hole that's punched in the box and put that as one of the photos. And in my description, I would say something like, there's a hole in the box, see the photo for the damage. So those are what you might want to use for your photos, things like that. One other thing you might want to try if you're taking photos inside and you have a single light source, like a light bulb, it can tend to cause a lot of glare or uneven lighting on your photos. I find something that works pretty well often is outdoors on a fairly sunny day, but in the shade. That's usually pretty good. Sometimes in things that are still wrapped in shrink wrap, you'll get some glare. That's generally a pretty good place to take photos. You've got enough light, but you don't have that direct sunlight causing glare. So give that a try if your photos aren't coming out real great. Include photos of significant damage. As I mentioned before, people are going to want to know the condition and they're going to want you to be honest about it. So if you think there's any damage they need to know about, make sure to take a photo of it and post it. Don't post that photo first, because you don't want to necessarily highlight the fact that, hey, you're buying a damaged item, but you want them to know that the damage is there. You want to be sure to fully disclose that. Use extra photos to highlight features or notable items. So like, for example, I was just looking through a box recently. I have a bunch of old baseball cards that I have from when I was a kid. And I was thinking maybe selling some of them. And I was thinking, most of them aren't worth selling individually, a few maybe, but most of them probably aren't because they're not that valuable. So I might sell them as like groups or collections or lots. And one thing in your listings, anytime you're selling several things, related things together, use the word lot to describe it. You can also throw in collection or bundle or things like that, but make sure you have the word lot in your title. Not just in your description, but in your title, because people are often going to search that. If someone's a baseball card collector, they may say baseball card lot, because they're not looking to buy individual cards, they're looking to buy a whole bunch of cards together and maybe get a bargain. So make sure you use that word lot, L-O-T, in your descriptions. So use the photos to highlight features. So let's say I got together a whole bunch of different cards I wanted to sell. And I just took a picture of all these cards spread out, so you can see there's a whole bunch of cards there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through, if there's certain cards that I know are a little bit more valuable or really popular players, I'm going to pull those ones out and I'm going to take pictures of those individually. And I'm going to include them in my 12 photos. I'm probably not going to have enough photos to show every single card that's in that collection, but I'm going to pull out the ones that are most significant, that the people are most likely to be interested in, and I'm going to take photos of those. So that's what I mean by that, the most notable items. If you have enough photos to show one photo of each individual item you have in a group, definitely do that. If you have enough photos to show a lot of different views of an item and a lot of different perspectives, definitely do that. It doesn't hurt to have more photos. It never does. Sometimes there's no reason for it. It's just extra work, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have more photos. And as I said, you can have up to 12 photos per listing. Next, we're going to talk about our selling options. So, for example, you can do auctions, or you can do a fixed price or buy it now listing. Now, it used to be when eBay started out, it was only auctions. Everything was auctions. But now, something like, I don't know the exact percentage now, but I think it's about 97% of listings are fixed price or buy it now listings, where they list something for a particular price and you buy it for that price or you don't. There's a little more to it than that, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I will show you when I'm doing my listing. I'm going to go back to my listing. Let me move something here down to the bottom. I'm going to scroll down after my add photos. I'm going to see, I need to put in a brand. Some of these extra things here, recommended number of pieces, character, family, color, theme, year. You can add these if you want to, and these will be different for every category you look at, you list in, but don't worry too much about them, because in most cases, people are looking at the title, people are looking at the description. They're not looking at those quite as much. So feel free to add them, but feel free to leave them out too. Sometimes it's just a little bit of extra work for no real point. Now here's my description. You see I've written a description that it's a 1,000-piece transit graphics puzzle. Who published it, what year. It's unused, pieces still sealed in their bag. The box has been opened, but the pieces are brand new and untouched. Notice, because the box has been opened and unsealed, I did not list it as new. I listed it as used here, even though the pieces have not been opened and nobody has built the puzzle. If the thing is not as it would be on the shelf in the store, it's not considered new. So even if you know it hasn't been used, if it's been opened, looked through, don't list it as new. But in the description, it's okay to describe and say, you know, this has never been used. For example, board games. As I said, I buy and sell a lot of board games. A lot of times the box is open, but there's a bunch of cardboard pieces in there. They haven't been punched out. So you know the game's never been played, but you don't list it as new because it is not sealed in its shrink wrap like it would be on the store shelf. Only if it's actually like it would be on the store shelf should you list it as new, because you don't want that person saying, well, this is unplayed, but it's not really new. It's not the way it would be in the store. So the box has some minor wear and scuffing and a few minor creases and dents here and there, but still looks quite good. It's intact with no major damage. And it describes what the puzzle is, features a collage of travel-related road signs, airports, etc. I have this little paragraph I add to all my listings, just saying I have a lot of other things up for sale and I'm happy to combine shipping. So click see other items to check out my other stuff. That'll combine shipping, ship within 2 to 3 days of payment. Shipping costs are based on eBay shipping calculator. You know, you can put all this information in or not. That'll ship internationally using the global shipping program, which I'll talk about later. And then now I'm getting to what I was talking about, the format, fixed price or auction style. Fixed price means you set the price, they buy it or they don't buy it. Auction style means you start the price at a certain price, usually a fairly low price, and then you go up from there. People go up from there. The advantage of an auction style listing is because the price is starting low, you have a very good chance that the item is going to sell. The disadvantage is it might sell for less than you're expecting it to. And that's a risk you take with an auction style listing. Because once you put it up for auction style and people bid on it and buy it, you're expected to complete that transaction, whether or not you got a good price for it. So it's not considered okay on eBay to put something up for auction. It sells for too low a price and you just say, no, I'm not going to complete this transaction. I'm not going to send it to the person. I'm just going to cancel the sale. That's not considered okay on eBay. And if you do it too much, they will punish you. They may suspend your account or things like that. So now you can see fixed price or buy it now. So you choose your starting price. So if you're doing an auction, you're going to put a starting price right here. You can also include a buy it now price for an auction item. But if you do, as soon as someone places a bid, the buy it now price goes away. So someone may snatch it up right away, but if they don't and people start bidding, the buy it now option is gone. So That's how you choose your starting price. And for starting prices, I would say do some research and look at the same item or similar items to what you've sold and see what the sale prices have been for auctions. If they have been consistently around a certain number, you're probably okay starting with a low starting price and letting it get bid up to that number. If they're very inconsistent and the prices are all over the place, then you might want to start the starting price a little bit higher because you realize, well, some of these things have sold for $10 and some have sold for $50. I want to get at least 20 or 30 for it. So I'm going to start it at 20 and hope it goes up from there. You'll get more interest from auctions. People will be more likely to look at it and bid, but you could get a lower price. But if something's selling from $10 to $50 and at least you want to get at least 20 or 30 for it, if you started at 99 cents, it might only sell for $10. You'll get more people looking at it because of that low starting price, but you risk not getting much for it. And remember, once it sells at auction, you are expected to sell it. So you'll see these best offers. You can allow people to make best offers. That's also included in a fixed price listing, which I'll show you in a moment. So your auction, you're also going to choose your duration of your auction. You can pull this down. You can do 1, 3, 5, 7, or 10 days. Sort of the standard is most people do 7-day auctions. A week is a good amount of time to get a lot of eyes on it. You can go ahead and go for the 10 days if you want. I think a lot of people think of 1-week auctions too. So if they see a new item, they're going to think it's going to be ending about a week and they're going to remember, oh, I saw something on Sunday. Let me look again on Sunday and see how that auction's going. The only time you might want to use a 1-day auction would be if you have something that's, for example, very time sensitive, like say, a ticket to a sporting event or something like that, where you need to get that thing sold right away because the event's coming up. Then you might list a 1-day auction, but in general, probably not 1-day auctions. So 7 days is kind of the standard. It's what I almost always do on all my auctions. Now you have the start listings when I submit them or schedule start time. So, so if I'm doing an auction, I always schedule a start time. If I'm doing fixed price listings, it doesn't matter because someone's just going to buy it or they're not going to buy it. So go ahead and start the listing when you submit it. All fixed price auctions last for 30 days, and then they automatically renew if no one has bought the item. Auctions last for how long you want them to within these parameters. So if you're doing auctions, always schedule a start time because you want that auction ending at a time when people are going to be at a computer and available to bid. So you don't want it ending at 3 in the morning. Even if you happen to be up late, you have insomnia, I'm going to list a few items. Don't have your auctions end at 3 in the morning. Don't have your auctions end at 7:30 a.m. when people are probably on their way to work or getting ready for work. I tend to end my auctions on Sunday evenings about 7 p.m. because I figure Sunday evening is a time when people tend to be home quite a bit. And 7 p.m. here is 10 p.m. on the East Coast, which is not too late that a lot of people have gone to bed already. So I find that's a good time to end my auctions, but you may decide on a different time. Weeknight evenings can work. Probably just don't do it at weird times when people are not likely to be available to bid. And you schedule a start time here. You choose your day, choose your time, AM or PM. And then what it'll do is you don't have to do anything once you've scheduled it. It will automatically start your auction at that time. Let me show you a little bit more about a fixed price auction. So here's fixed price. You'll see it's listed as good till canceled. So it lasts for 30 days and then it relists. So in this case, I'm going to start when I submit it. I'm going to put a buy it now price. You can choose to allow best offers or not. That lets people send you an offer for your item. And what you can do also is you can automatically accept offers above a certain amount and automatically decline offers below a certain amount. And anything between those two, you will have the option to decide or to send a counter offer to the buyer. Now, The automatically decline offers lower than a certain amount. That's just to keep those annoying people who are, you're selling something for $100 and they offer you $2 for it. You're not even going to bother seeing that. You're not going to have to waste your time responding. Automatically accept offers over a certain amount. Maybe you say, okay, well, I'm selling this thing for 15 bucks, but I've got a little wiggle room on the price. So if someone offers me 12 or more, I'm just going to take it automatically. I don't need to think about that one. Anywhere in between, maybe I want to think about it, or send them a counter offer. So if they offer something and you don't quite like the price, you can send a counter offer. You can go back and forth 3 times and then they don't get any more, and then you don't get any more offers. The reason for that is so that people can't just constantly raise the offer a little bit, and find out what your minimum price is that way. It forces them to sort of make a serious offer from the start. So that's how you can do a fixed price listing. The quantity, you can put in how many of the item you have if you happen to have more than one, and then people will know they can buy more than one, or the listing won't automatically end when one is sold and forcing you to redo a listing. Your reserve price. Reserve price, you can set a secret price that the item will not sell below, will automatically not sell below, even for an auction. If the auction doesn't reach that level, the item won't sell. The thing is, it's expensive to put a reserve price on your item. It costs a $5 fee or 7.5% of your reserve price, whichever is more. So it's an expensive thing to do, and buyers don't like it because then they don't know how high they have to bid to get the item. It's the sort of secret thing. So it really puts buyers off. I don't recommend using it. If you have a very expensive item, I would recommend instead just starting it at the lowest possible price you could consider taking for that item. If you think, boy, I'd really like to get 200 bucks for this thing, but if it sells for 100, okay, I'll live with that. Just start the item at $99.99 or $100 or whatever, and hope it goes up from there. And if it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell, no big deal. So those are your selling options. So your duration, I talked about that. So 7 days is standard. End auction when people's likely to bid. Use your scheduled start time. And here's another important tip I have for you. When you're using the scheduled start time, if you're selling a bunch of items that you think are all related to one another, or that someone is likely to be interested in multiple items. So say, for example, you have a collection of some particular types of things, baseball cards, figurines, jewelry, whatever, and you're selling a whole bunch of items individually. Start all those, if you're doing it by auction, have them all start 2 minutes apart, so they will all end 2 minutes apart. That way, if someone wins one, they're more likely to jump over and look at the others and bid on those. And the reason they might want to do that is that, number one, if they're interested in those kinds of things, they're probably interested in multiple different ones. The other reason is because they can get combined shipping. Now, shipping one 2-pound package is a lot cheaper than shipping 2 1-pound packages. And buyers know that. So if they're going to buy 5 different things, they'd rather buy them all from the same seller, and they would rather pay shipping once, 1 5-pound package rather than 5 1-pound packages, because that 1 5-pound package is going to be a lot cheaper than buying those individual ones. So you'll get those people who want to do that combined shipping and are more likely to jump over to your other items and look at them. So if they win one, they're going to go to the next one, they might go to the next one, look at that, bid on that. Then they win that one, they might go to the next one, bid on that. You can get a lot of bids at the end of your auctions that way. One other thing about that, why do I say 2 minutes apart instead of 1 minute apart? Well, the reason is, if you tell it to start something on Friday, December 4th at 7:00 p.m., it will do that. But it will do 7 o'clock and however many seconds happen to be on eBay's internal clock when you submitted the item. So it might start it at 7 o'clock in 1 second. It might start it at 7 o'clock in 59 seconds. So if you start your next auction at 7:01, This one here that you're doing now could start at 7 o'clock and 59 seconds. The next item might start at 7:01 and 1 second. So those auctions are actually only ending 2 seconds apart. That does not give that person who won the first auction a chance to click over to the second auction and make a bid. So make sure you put them 2 minutes apart, and then they will always be, in truth, at least a minute and 2 seconds apart. So 7 o'clock, 7:02, 7:04, 7:06, 7:08. Don't space them too far apart or people may lose interest. If you put them 10 minutes apart and you have 10 different auctions, people aren't going to want to necessarily sit there for an hour and a half and bid on all these things. But if they're 2 minutes apart, they're very close in time, but it does give people time to click over, look at that other item, and place a bid on it. So shipping, we're talking a little bit about, well, let me scroll down a little and see what other items we have here. The next thing we have payment options. The payment option is listed as PayPal. That's kind of the standard on eBay, but that's changing. I'll talk about a little bit about that later. Although I can't talk too much about it because it's very new and I haven't entirely figured out how it works myself. So here's your shipping details. You can choose to do either a flat shipping. Do that again. Same cost for all buyers. Or you can choose to do calculated shipping, where you put in the size of the item, the weight, and what services you're using. And eBay's internal calculators will then calculate how much that costs, and we'll show that to people. Freight, large items over 150 pounds, that's unlikely to come up, or no shipping, local pickup only. I always use calculated shipping. The reason for that is particularly if you're shipping something fairly large. If you're shipping it all the way across the country versus shipping it like, to the next city, the difference in price can be huge. It can be 2 to 3 times as much. So if you choose a flat rate, you can really get burned if someone from far away ships it and you suddenly find out, wow, this thing's costing me $20 more to ship than I thought it was. So I always use the calculated shipping. Now, make sure, one other thing, make sure you enter both the weight of the box and the dimensions of the box. Measure it, get out your measuring tape and measure it, because the size of the box also matters for shipping costs, and it can make a huge difference, particularly with US Postal Service. It can make a huge difference how much this costs. A very small 1 pound box going across the country is going to be much, much cheaper to ship than a very large 1 pound box. So make sure you put those dimensions in, or you're going to have a big surprise when you go to ship the item and it's a lot more expensive than you thought it was. You can offer up to 4 different options. I usually offer FedEx and United States Parcel Service options. Surprisingly, I've found recently that for any box that's more than about 1 pound or 2 pounds, especially if it's going a long distance, FedEx is usually the cheapest option. So for larger items, I usually list that first, because that's the price people are going to see when they look at your item. And let me show you a quick example of that. So go to click on an item. Now you can see each item, it will say, here it will say 2 bids, US $5.50 plus US $14.90. That $14.90 there is the shipping price. So you can see that right there, but it will only display the first option you listed. So try and figure out what's going to be the cheapest option and list that one first. Offer your multiple options. As many options as you can is usually a good idea. As I said, I do try and list 4 options, unless, for example, a very small item that's under 1 pound, unless it's a really big box, USPS first class is almost always going to be the cheapest. So that's what I'll list for things under 1 pound. And sometimes that's my only option, because it's going to be the cheapest option. Whatever else you have listed, it's going to be the cheapest option. I'm going to go back to my draft now. There's my draft. And it'll load up here. List your cheapest option first, as I mentioned. Decide if you charge a handling fee. For example, if you're buying boxes and you want to add a little bit, you can do that. As I scroll down here, you can see here your handling time. That's about how long you think you're going to it's going to take you to ship the item. And handling cost right here. So you can put in a handling cost. If you're paying $1 each for boxes and you want to charge people for that, you can do it. It doesn't really show up. It just shows up as part of the shipping cost, but it will make the shipping cost higher, which will put people off a little bit sometimes. So if you're going to do that, try to keep it low. If you're selling books, CDs, DVDs, use media mail. Media mail is going to be a lot cheaper, particularly for books, which tend to be heavy. It's often a third, a quarter of the cost or less. It's a very, very cheap way to mail things. So for books, I usually only list media mail as my shipping source because that's going to be the best deal. You can offer free shipping if you want. If you offer free shipping, make sure to fold that price into the price of your item, because you're going to have to pay that shipping whether or not the person pays you for it. I really never offer free shipping. Some people like to do that. It particularly might not be so bad for smaller items, smaller and valuable items where the shipping is maybe only going to be $2, $3, $4, and the item selling for a pretty large amount. Throw in free shipping might be useful. You have to decide whether you want to offer international shipping. International shipping is kind of a pain. There's, forms to fill out and things like that. But what I recommend, offer international shipping if you want to, but if you're going to, click this Sell Internationally with the Global Shipping Program. The way that works, it's really great. It's a program eBay has. They work with the shipping company Pitney Bowes. You ship your item to a fulfillment center in the United States. I think it's in Kentucky. After that, they handle all the international part completely. They charge the buyer for the US shipping plus the international shipping. They credit you for the US part of the shipping. You ship it only within the US. You now have coverage for any loss or damage during the overseas leg of the shipping. They can still make a claim, for example, that an item was not what you promised them. But if they make a claim for damage or loss, then you're covered. That's included in the price. That insurance is included in the price. So if you're going to sell internationally, I really recommend using that global shipping program. That's going to save you a lot of headaches, and it's going to save you dealing with all the custom stuff. So here's where you add your weight or your dimensions. You can either add a custom weight and put in the exact ounces, pounds and ounces. If it's less than a pound, you're going to have to do that. Or you can just do 1 to 2 pounds, 2 to 3 pounds, 3 to 4 pounds. The reason you might do that is the companies, they calculate their shipping based on how, once it's over a pound, most of them calculate based on how many pounds it is, whether it's 1 to 2 pounds, 2 to 3 pounds. That's how they're going to calculate their shipping. So it doesn't really matter if it's 2 pounds and 1 ounce or 2 pounds and 15 ounces. The shipping cost is going to be the same with USPS or FedEx. You tell your item location. You can promote your listing. This basically says you're going to pay a higher fee to eBay in order to show your item a little bit higher in results. I never use it, but some people swear by it. So you can try it out if you want. See how well that works. One other thing I'm going to mention is make sure you have your box ready before you ship your item, and you know what you're going to ship what box you're going to ship your item in. That way you can weigh it inside the box so you can put an accurate weight, because the box is going to add some weight and you're going to have to pay for that weight when you're shipping it. Also, then you get accurate dimensions. Leave that thing in that box until you ship it. Because otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to use one box for something, you're going to take it out. When you ship it, oh my gosh, I don't have that size box anymore. Suddenly I have to use a larger box. Oh, that bumped the weight up to another pound. Oh, and also it's a larger size, and suddenly my shipping is $5 to $10 more than I thought it was going to be. but I still have to ship that item and I'm taking a loss there. So make sure you have the box you're going to ship the item in. You measure that box, you weigh that box, and you know how much, so that way you know how much that's going to be. Now, it's standard that the seller is responsible until the item is delivered by the carrier. So USPS, all USPS and FedEx shipments now come with delivery confirmation, and they will, and tracking, and they will show you where the item is, and they'll show you when it's delivered. Until that delivery confirmation shows up, showing you that item has been delivered to that home, you as the seller are responsible. If it is lost, if it is damaged, you are responsible. It's not considered okay on eBay to ask people to pay extra for insurance. So if you want to insure an item, build that into your price, because after the fact, it's not going to be okay to ask the buyer. And if the item gets lost, that's on you. That's not on the buyer. We talked about international shipping. We talked about the global shipping program. I recommend using it. It makes things so much easier. It's sometimes more expensive for the buyer, but sometimes not. So international shipping is just really expensive no matter how you do it. So buyers are going to realize they're going to pay a lot for that shipping cost. If you get questions, so make sure to respond quickly and honestly to questions. Be honest. If someone wants some more details about something, give them those details. If they want close-up pictures of damage, send them to them. Don't try to hide something that's wrong with something, or you're going to end up with an unhappy buyer, and you're going to get you're going to get a chargeback against you, and you may get negative feedback, which you don't want. Be prepared for questions about combined shipping. If you're selling a bunch of things that are similar, people are going to ask, how much would be combined shipping for these three be? Have a box ready that you can throw them into and weigh them, and then you can give them an accurate quote for that combined shipping. Because that's going to get a lot more buyers interested in a lot of cases, honestly, if you're selling related items. Listen and respond to feedback. So after a transaction is over, people can leave feedback for you, and you can leave feedback for them. In general, the standard on eBay is to leave positive feedback, unless you absolutely cannot. So if there's a problem with an item or with a transaction, try and work that out with the buyer or the seller before leaving negative feedback. Now, unfortunately, as a seller, you can now only either leave positive feedback, or you can report the buyer to eBay if you think they've done something wrong. There's no negative feedback you can leave. They can leave negative feedback for you. You cannot leave negative feedback for them. Most people are going to leave positive feedback. In like hundreds and hundreds of transactions, I think I've gotten negative feedback maybe once. Generally, the buyer will contact you if there's a problem, and you work out the problem with them. You know, you don't want that negative feedback, especially when you're a new seller and you don't have a high feedback number. So make sure to make that seller happy. If there's a problem, fix the problem, give them their money back, replace the item, do whatever you have to do. So the end of the sale, so one thing I wanted to say, if you're auctioning something, don't worry too much about not having a lot of bids early on. Instead, look at how many watchers you have, and I'll show you how you can do that. So I'm going to go to my eBay. And I'm going to look at the items I currently have for sale. I'm going to go to selling here, and I'm going to go to active, and that will show me all the items I currently actively have for sale. Then as I scroll down, I can see how many times the item has been viewed and how many watchers it has. These ones all have 0. This one has 1, 2. You'll notice that auctions tend to have more watchers because they have here's one that has 7, because they have a specific end date. And people want to make sure they're keeping an eye on it so they can bid before it ends. Fixed price auctions, people don't tend to watch. I mean, fixed price sales, people don't tend to watch as much because it's not time limited. So if you don't have a lot of bids and it's late in the auction, don't necessarily panic. There's a lot of auctions where most of the bidding happens right at the end of the auction. So look at how many watchers you have. If you see a fairly large number of watchers, but you don't have a lot of bids, you're probably going to be okay, because a lot of those watchers are probably waiting to the last minute to jump in and bid. They're snipers, as they call them, the snipe bidding, where you put in your bid at the last minute. So you may have a lot of people fighting. If you don't have very many watchers and you don't have very many bids, you might not be looking at a very successful sale or a very good price. After you sell the item, contact the buyer quickly. You will have the option. You will see an area where you can see over here. Also, you can see all your sold items. Click sold. You can look at all your sold items, and you can see, you can print your shipping label from here. You can also do things like, well, it's not an option here because this person's already paid, but normally when you pull this down, you will see send invoice as one of the options. Some people will pay right away. If they don't, go ahead and send them an invoice. And they'll usually pay that pretty quickly. You can do second chance offers on auctions. If you have another item that's just like the item you sold and you auctioned it, you can send a second chance offer, and that will also be in this drop-down menu here. You can send a second chance offer to the next highest bidder, and it will tell you how much their highest bid was, and you can decide whether you want to send that offer to them. Also, if the first bidder falls through and doesn't complete their purchase, you can offer it to the second person. So the second chance offers can be useful. Leave feedback after the transaction is completed, and generally most people will leave positive feedback unless there was a real problem. Not leaving positive feedback is considered like, you got to be really angry to do that, because negative feedback or even neutral feedback really affects someone's rating as an eBay seller or as an eBay seller. So you don't want to do that unless there was a real problem. You tried to work out the problem with the person and they just wouldn't work out the problem for you. Then you leave negative feedback, but definitely try to work with the buyer or seller first to work out the problem. I generally leave feedback after the transaction is completely completed and the person has received the item to make sure they're happy with the item. They will leave positive feedback from me as a seller, and I will leave positive feedback for them as a buyer. But I generally wait for them to leave feedback for me first, because that's my indication that they got the item and they're happy with the item. More thing about shipping: make your payment terms clear, how long they have to pay after the auction ends. Send them a message. You can send them that invoice and then send them a message after a couple days if they haven't paid. And then generally, like toward the end, send them another message and say, hey, you haven't paid for this yet. Are you planning on completing this transaction? If not, you can cancel the transaction if they have a good reason. But in most cases, you want to make a non-paying bidder report so that the eBay community knows that this is someone that buys things and doesn't finish their doesn't come through on their transactions. So you're going to offer multiple shipping options, as I mentioned. U.S. Postal Service is not always the cheapest. For any larger items now, I am usually listing FedEx first, because the FedEx discounts on eBay are excellent. So you can usually get a better price for a larger package, heavier package. Sometimes if it's a fairly large package and it's going a long way, like halfway or more across the country, it can be half the price or less to ship with FedEx. Stick to your promised shipping time. If you say you're shipping within 3 days, please do ship within 3 days. eBay actually keeps track of that if you buy the shipping labels through them. So make sure you're getting those shipping labels generated and those items shipped out on time. And eBay will tell you, you have to ship this item by this particular date based on your handling time that you've entered. So make sure you ship by that date. Use eBay to print shipping labels. After you have shipped an item, you can click print shipping label here. It will automatically show the option that the person chose here. You can change it, but it will automatically show the option they chose there. You can buy the label right there and print it right on your printer at home. It's super handy, super easy. You don't have to type in their address. Their address is already entered. Everything's already entered. It's terrific. I definitely recommend doing it that way. It's also going to be cheaper than if you go to the counter at the post office, because you get online discounts, or the FedEx Kinko's store. Same thing. Always, if you can, print your shipping labels. What I do is I buy just a pack of half sheet labels off Amazon. They're just a few cents per label, and they have 2 labels per page. And you can just put them through any normal inkjet printer. I just have a cheap Epson inkjet printer. They print really great. Peel them off and stick them right on. You don't have to worry about, tape and all that kind of stuff. It makes it a lot easier. So I recommend that if you can. Delivery confirmation and tracking is now included in all FedEx and USPS. So you don't have to worry about paying extra for that. That's included. And if you buy your label on eBay, if you look at the item you sold, it will show you the tracking information. So for example, these are some things. It will show shipped, and you can click view tracking here. It will show you the tracking for that item. Got some more down here that I did a long time ago. It will show when it's delivered right here. So you don't have to go to USPS, type in a big long, 35-digit number or whatever, because it's all just right here on your eBay sold items area. USPS does have scheduled pickups. I haven't used this service, but I've heard of people who have. They say it works pretty well. So if you're shipping with USPS, your carrier's coming to your house anyway, you can indicate on their website that you have things for them to pick up, and they can pick them up for you. Your fees, your insertion fee, your first 200 listings per month are free. It used to be 50, just recently they changed it to 200 listings per month free. So unless you're a real big seller, you're probably not going to hit that cap. 35 cents per listing beyond 200. Now remember, if you're selling fixed priced items and they don't sell within a month, when they renew, they're going to count against your next month's 200 listings. Each time they renew, and they renew once a month. So if you're a real major power seller, you can get eBay Store and you get more free listings and some other benefits. I've never done that. I don't sell enough stuff to make it worthwhile. Your final value fee is 10% of your total price, including shipping for most listings. Now, why is it 10% including shipping? Why are they taking a cut of the shipping? That doesn't seem fair, right? Well, the reason is because people used to abuse that system. They would list something they wanted to sell for $50. They would list it at a penny with $49.99 shipping. And so it would sell, eBay would get 10% of a penny. So they're kind of cheating eBay out of their cut of the sales. And because of that, eBay had to change it so that they now take 10% of the shipping costs as well. So those people kind of ruined it for everyone. That's why they do that. They're taking a 10% fee. Resolving problems, contact the buyer or seller first, try to work it out with them. Most people are generally pretty reasonable. If not, there's an eBay resolution center, and you have problems that can't be resolved, you can go to them and you can ask them to resolve it. In disputes, eBay tends to side with the buyer more often than the seller. So just keep that in mind. You go up against a buyer, you may lose. Some protections for buyers, you can get purchase reimbursement if the item is either lost, damaged, or not as described. Sometimes people will try and sell something, for example, and they won't describe they'll say it's in better condition than it is. You get the item, you're really disappointed, you contact them, they say too bad, go to eBay. In most cases, you'll be able to get a refund. Sellers, if someone doesn't pay you, they will refund your fees. You have to list them, you have to report them as a non-paying bidder. If they do that too many times, they may get their account suspended. So you don't want to do that as a buyer either. You want to make sure if you buy something, you follow through on that purchase. A few alternative places you might want to consider selling. Oh, I wanted to talk a little more also about payments. Right now, until very recently, the standard for payment has pretty much always been PayPal. Almost all transactions went through PayPal. PayPal is really well integrated into eBay. It makes everything, excuse me, cough drop there. It makes everything very simple. eBay and PayPal used to be part of the same company. They've since split apart. Now eBay is starting to do their own payment processing, which means they're changing their fee structure if you use their payment processing. And they're trying to make everyone switch over to that payment processing. They say it's going to be a little cheaper than the eBay plus PayPal fees. It seems like it's going to be about the same, but I can't really give you a ton of information about that because it's still sort of playing out and I haven't had a chance to use the new system yet. But it looks like what's going to happen is eBay is going to accept credit cards, PayPal, all these other different payment methods, and they're just going to transfer the money into your account, which will then eventually go into your bank account. So that's pretty much how that's going to work. But again, I have not used it yet. It's a new thing. So we're kind of in a state of flux where as payment goes yet. Definitely PayPal still works, and definitely you can still take PayPal for payment. And that's what a lot of people are still used to. So for now, maybe stick with that. But if you're starting as a new seller, eBay may force you to go into their payment processing, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something new that I'm not terribly familiar with. So some alternatives for selling. If you're selling books, Amazon's a great place. That's the first place people usually look for books. They have restrictions on selling most other things, though. Their fees are a lot higher as well. Their fees, I don't know exactly what they are, but they're somewhere around 20%. And they have very severe restrictions on selling most other items. Like I sometimes used to sell some DVDs and CDs on Amazon. Now you have to be like a real CD and DVD dealer, and you have to show them that you are buying new inventory from a distributor in order to sell CDs or DVDs. This is true for most other things like games too. So books are great on Amazon. Other things, a little harder to sell. Craigslist is great. It's a local thing. You would sell to people that are going to come and pick the item up from you. It's free to sell. There are no fees. It's good for large items that you're not going to ship, but you're going to expect lower prices on Craigslist. Craigslist is a little bit flea market-ish, so you're going to expect people looking for bargains. Also, people on Craigslist tend to be a little unreliable sometimes. So you'll make a deal with someone will say, oh, I'll be there at 7 o'clock tonight to pick up this item with the cash. They never show up. And on Craigslist, there's really no recourse for that. So it's good for large items. It's good for things that you need to sell locally, and you don't have to pay any fees, but it's not great. Etsy is a really good place for any sort of handmade things you make, crafts, any sort of like cute kind of vintage items. Those are the kind of things that tend to be sold on Etsy. And people that like that kind of thing are probably going to look at Etsy first. So if you're making, doing embroidery you want to sell, or making, cross stitch, or, quilts or things like that, handmade things, you'll find a market for those on Etsy. Some other ones, there's a lot of apps now that you see advertised, such as OfferUp, Let Go. There's one called Mercari. There's a few others. Most of them are for selling locally, and they do charge a small fee, but they make things a little bit easier than Craigslist. And they give you a little bit more, like they have ways to take payments and things like that. So those can be useful. They don't have as large a user base as eBay. So sometimes eBay is your best bet to start. But if you're looking to sell things locally and you don't like the wild, wild west that's Craigslist, you can try some of these apps too. There's also a Facebook marketplace, and there's buying and selling groups for all different kinds of items. So feel free to check those out if you want to. I haven't personally used Facebook Marketplace, but that is something that is available. So that is the end. I think I'm already over time here, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And we're going to see if we have any questions. Oh, yes. Someone said they would you recommend an inexpensive postal scale? I noticed Amazon sells it for approximately $23. That's something I meant to mention. If you're going to sell more than just like a very few items, oh, somebody's here. Somebody's joining me. Yes, get a postal scale. And get one that has a fairly high capacity. I bought one for, like it says $23 on Amazon. I bought one for about $20. That seems to be very accurate. It's digital. It can weigh, I think, up to either 50 or 75 pounds. And sometimes I do find I'm selling things that are a little heavier than I think I would. So get one with a higher capacity than you think you'll need. You're not going to need to spend a lot of money, and it's going to save you a lot of time because you're going to be able to have those accurate weights. so you can print your labels from home. So you don't have to go to the post office and have them weigh it for you and then charge you more for shipping. So yes, definitely buy yourself a postal scale. Like I said, if you're selling 2 items, it might not be worth it. But if you find you're going to be selling, you know, even a couple or a few items or a month, totally worth it. Yes. If you sell an item for $15, you pay in eBay 10% of the fee on the sale and shipping, plus you pay a fee to buy a label. You do not pay a fee to buy a label. You get a discount on the label. The labels shipping through eBay is going to be a lot cheaper. And that sort of usually in most cases will, because the eBay calculator will show, like for most shipping costs, may show a little bit higher price than what you actually pay. So you may get some of your 10% back on your shipping from that. But consider the fact that you're going to take 10%, that you're going to have a 10% of your total price. If you sell something that's fairly large and really, really cheap, I mean, you could theoretically end up losing money. Like if you have something that weighs 10 pounds and is going to cost $30 to ship, you start the item at 99 cents, it sells for 99 cents. Now the total amount coming to you is $30.99, right? eBay is taking 10% of that, so they're taking like, you know, $3.10. You've now lost money on that sale. So consider that in your price. Like the eBay, if an item is really large and really heavy and it's going to cost really a lot to ship, they're going to take 10% of that shipping too. So keep that in mind when pricing your items. But yes, it says someone's asking about whether you're paying a fee to buy a label. You are not paying a fee to buy a label. In fact, I always recommend buying your labels from eBay because the price on there will always be cheaper than it would be if you go to the post office or if you go to FedEx. And there's no extra fee for that. But yes, 10% of your total sale price plus 10% of the total shipping price. And as I said, eBay was kind of forced to do that because a lot of people were kind of scamming them by listing things with extremely low prices and extremely high shipping, much, much higher than the actual shipping price, and avoiding paying the fees that way. Does anyone else have any other questions? Looks like we're a little bit over time. I apologize for that. When you say the shipping is built in, do you mean? Okay, I'm waiting. Okay, so what I just mean is that the shipping process is really well integrated within eBay. So instead of having to go to a different website and buy a label after I'm done with my shipping, after I'm done with my sale, I can just do this. Let me go ahead and share my screen again one more time. And go back to my eBay. So here's an item that's sold here. And all I have to do here is click print shipping label. Now you'll see the buyer's address is already listed. I'll get that off the screen so you don't show someone's address that they don't want to. But their address is already listed. The item is listed. The type of shipping that they chose was listed. It's already selected over here. It tells you the price. You can see that they've already paid that price here. And then all you have to do is go down here, click purchase shipping label. The shipping label opens up, and on your screen, you click print. It prints out of your printer. You either cut it out if you used a piece of paper or peel it off, and you stick it right on there. And as I said, the prices are going to be cheaper than you can get generally anywhere else. You'll see this one here, for example, they're using their FedEx home delivery service. On eBay, you save 48%. So that's 48% cheaper than it would be if you went to the FedEx Kinko's store and did it at their counter. Sometimes you can see those savings are even higher. So I think that's what you may be asking about when you say, let me go ahead and stop sharing again. Well, you say shipping is built in, you mean. One other thing you might also be talking about is if you offer free shipping. If you offer free shipping, remember, you're still going to have to ship that item. You're still going to have to ship that item. Oh, so for whatever price you listed. So make sure to figure out how much shipping is going to be and include that amount in your price. So if you want to get $20 for an item and you figure it's going to cost $20 to ship, make sure to list that item for $40. Don't list it for 20 with free shipping. Then it costs 20 to ship and you made no money on the transaction. How do you pay for the shipping? So eBay, well, the same way you're going to pay your fees and you're going to pay your shipping costs. So eBay, for example, I have it set it up where all my fees, once a month, eBay automatically takes them out of my PayPal account. I have it linked to my PayPal account. That's how my fees are paid. That's how my shipping is paid as well. Is that it's paid directly out of my PayPal account. If you don't have a PayPal account, it used to be you pretty much needed a PayPal account to do business on eBay. That may be changing now. I imagine that they will now allow you to just have it either linked to your bank account or your credit card account. But as I said, with their new payment processing, I haven't used it. It's very new, and I haven't investigated it a whole lot. But I imagine those will now be options to have this link to either your credit card or your bank account, and then the charges will automatically come from there. PayPal does charge you. PayPal does charge you. PayPal's fee is 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. And eBructure with the processing their own payments seems like it's going to be about the same as that, because instead of 10%, I think it's going to be 12.35% plus 30 cents per transaction. So it's going to be pretty close to what eBay plus PayPal together are going to be charged. Is the buyer sending the money to PayPal, eBay, or how do I get the money? So in the old system, they would generally pay through PayPal. Now, your PayPal account will be linked to your bank account. It stays in PayPal as long as you want to leave it in PayPal, but you can transfer it to your bank account anytime you want to. I just leave my money in PayPal and I use it to pay for things. There's a lot of online purchases that you can use for PayPal. If you get a ticket from Southwest Airlines, you can pay with PayPal. If you many online stores allow you to pay with PayPal if you're buying stuff on eBay. So I just keep my balance in my account and use it to pay for things online. But if you want to get a hold of that money, you can transfer it to your account. What you can also do, if you want, is you can also apply for a PayPal debit card, and then you can use that to access the money in your PayPal account, just as you would a debit card for your bank. So that's how you would get your money out of PayPal. There's a very easy link within PayPal to just say, transfer the money to me. Now, with the new eBay system, from what I've read, again, this is just based on what I've read, I have not used it myself. They will take the payments and they will have your bank account information and they will transfer the money into your bank account. And from what I'm hearing from people, the numbers I'm looking at online, it looks like it will take maybe somewhere in the 3 to 5 day range. Remember, one thing I didn't mention. Remember, the standard on eBay is that the buyer pays before you ship. So do not ship something until you've been paid. That's the standard on eBay. It will tell you in your sold items if something's been paid for. So for example, this one here, you can see it says paid. It would not say paid here yet if the person had not yet paid for that item. Once it says paid there, you know they've paid for the item and it's okay to ship. Until it shows up as paid, they've not paid you, don't ship until they've paid you. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? Is there a cost to keep your money with PayPal? There's not. Unfortunately, PayPal used to pay a very small amount of interest, very small. It was, about what maybe like, say a Bank of America or someplace like that would pay you for a checking account, like a small fraction of a percentage. They don't do that anymore. They say it was because of some regulatory issue they had with operating as a bank when they're not licensed as a bank or something like that. I don't know. I think maybe they just didn't want to pay that anymore. But there's no charge to keep your money in PayPal. In general, they don't charge you to transfer it. There are some things that I think they will charge you for, like, for example, if you want them to mail you a physical check. I don't remember all the details, because in general, my money just stays in PayPal and is used to buy other things, other purchases that I make online. But there are certainly ways to access the money for free without having to pay any fees to get a hold of your money. They do take the fee when people pay you. Now, there is a way to send money on PayPal called Friends and Family, where it's basically just sending money to someone. Sometimes you'll see people in online transactions asking for people to pay that way. And don't ask people to pay that way. It's against eBay and PayPal's policies. And don't ever pay anyone that way, because it is completely irreversible. That's basically sending someone a gift. That's if you want to send your cousin $20 for their birthday so they can go out to dinner. That's what that's for. You can't get it back. It's not tied to any transaction. So never pay that way. Never ask anyone to pay that way. It is fee free, but if you ask someone to pay that way, you're basically announcing, I'm a shady character. So don't do it. Yes. So for shipping, you want to weigh the item, and then you want to put it in the box you are going to ship it in, and you want to measure that box. And then, sorry, let me share my screen one more time. I'll show you. So I'm going to go to my drafts. That's another thing. If you're doing a listing and you don't finish it, what you can do, like, let's say you're doing a listing late at night. You don't want to take photos late at night because the lighting's not very good, but you can do all the other things in the listing. You can put your listing together, and then at the bottom, let me move this a little bit so I can see again. You'll see where it says Save Draft here. Just click that. It will be saved, and then when you go back, you will see in your My eBay, you will see an option for drafts, and you can click on any of the drafts, and you can, so let me go back here. Sorry, this thing's a pain here. It's getting in the way. Let's go back. So you can see we're in your selling on your My eBay page. You can click drafts and resume your draft. So what you're going to do, sorry, it's going a little slow. It'll get there. So what you're going to do now is you're going to scroll down here. When you're doing the shipping, you're going to enter, once again, the weight of your item here. If it's less than a pound, you're going to enter in specifically how many ounces it is. So like, say 6 ounces, round up on the ounces. You're going to enter the dimensions of your box in inches. And again, if it's like a 1/2 inch, round up, because I've actually heard of people being charged extra by FedEx because they measured the box. They will occasionally measure boxes and found out it was bigger than they said it was. So if it's 12.5 inches, enter 13 inches. If it's 3.25 inches, enter 4 inches. You're going to enter that in here. You're going to put whatever services you want. And then it's going to calculate based on the buyer's zip code. And it's going to show the buyer the price based on their zip code. So the buyer will know how much shipping is going to be. If they're smart and they click on the little tab that says shipping options, they'll see the other shipping options. They'll pick the one they like the best, the one that's cheapest for them. And that's the shipping they'll get, and that's the shipping they'll pay for. So yes, eBay will calculate all that and it will show it to the buyer. So that's the best way to do that, because there can be such a huge difference in prices based on where people live. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, sometimes for things that aren't too huge but are heavy, US Postal Service has free flat rate boxes you can get. You get the boxes for free, you have to pay for the shipping cost. And as long as something fits inside that box, the price is fixed. There's different sizes that are different prices. The biggest one is, I think, a little under $20. The smaller ones, if you buy the shipping on eBay, is about a little over $13. So for something that's pretty heavy, but not really large, that can fit in that box, that's sometimes your cheapest option. And you can also list that here as an option. So you can list, for example, I want to list a priority mail medium flat rate box as an option. I think it's usually about the same price as shipping something that's roughly 2 pounds. So if your item can fit in there and is more than 2 pounds, you might want to offer that as an option because it might be cheaper for your buyers. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, so I sent everyone an email. Hopefully everyone got an email from me with that includes also my contact information. So if you have any follow-up questions, please do feel free to contact me by email or by phone, and I'll be glad to try and answer those questions for you. Oh, how do you put the photo on the form? Okay, I'm going back in one more time, sharing my screen one more time. So I have my email saved. I have my photos saved on my computer somewhere. I'm going to share my screen here again. I have my photos saved on my computer somewhere. Now, what I'm going to do in this area for photos, I'm going to click Add Photos right here. And that's going to bring up, wherever I last looked for photos. But you can go through this just like you would Windows Explorer, and you can find things wherever they are. So in this case, I'm going to look on this one here. And I'm going to find, this is just my memory card from my camera. So I'm going to look so I can see the pictures. Sorry, all these other things are in the way. I have to move them. So I'm going to view large icons. Now I can see all the pictures. Now I pick the photo I want. Let's say I want this one here. I'm selling a closet. I don't know. So, and then I'm going to click open. It's going to add that photo. And you can select more than one photo at a time, or you can click add photos again and add more here. And selecting more than one photo at a time is the same way you would do that in Windows. So for example, control click multiple things to choose multiple things, shift click to choose a range of things. You can add up to 12 photos. Now, once you have the photo in here, you can do things like you can rotate it. You can crop it. There's a few other simple things you can do. I usually do those things first and then just go ahead and enter the photo as is, because eBay's photo editor is not super powerful, but it can be okay to do those few things. So like, okay, I've now got this one. Now I'm going to click save because I rotated it. I didn't rotate it, but I rotated it at 360 degrees. Now, if I want to add more photos, I can click add photos here. I'm going to bring that up again, and then I'm going to choose, I'm going to click this one, and then I'm going to do shift click. I'm now pick these 4 photos. You're going to get a cat, you're going to get some CDs, or I mean some DVDs. Click open. Now it's going to load those photos in. And you can add up to 12 this way. So that's how you're going to add your photos. And if you go back later and you want to add more photos, click add photos here, you can add more. Okay, let's see. When I see the shipping amount on an item, is that the furthest shipping place they put in? No. That's going to be based on their zip code and your zip code. It's going to calculate, because when you register for eBay, you're going to have to give them your address so people will know where to ship to. So they're going to know your zip code. That seller is also going to have their address in there. So it's going to calculate it both based on the size, the weight of the package, and your zip code and the seller's zip code. So if it's going a very short distance, it's going to be a cheaper price. If you're buying something from someone in Irvine, it's not going to cost nearly as much to ship as if you're buying something from someone in New York City. So no, you don't put in where you're shipping to. You put in where you're shipping from. The buyer puts in where they're shipping to. It calculates it based on that. So that buyer in Maine, for example, or Hawaii or Alaska is going to see a higher price than that buyer who's 10 miles from you in Los Angeles. And that's all calculated based on FedEx's or UPS's shipping rates, and that's all built into the shipping calculator. So all you need to tell eBay is you need to tell them where you're located. You need to tell them how much the package weighs. You need to tell them how large the package is, its dimensions. All the calculations then are done based on where the buyer is located and what shipping service they choose. So you don't have to worry about, unless you're putting in a fixed price for shipping, which I don't recommend. I recommend using the shipping calculator. Unless you're putting in that fixed price, you do not have to worry about where the shipper is located. eBay is going to calculate based on their address. Okay, so I think since I don't see any more questions popping up right away, I think we're going to go ahead and say thank you everyone for joining us. And as I said, I am available to answer any follow-up questions you have. This session will also be posted on video. We video recorded it, so it will be posted on YouTube, I believe, if that's correct. Yvonne,
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, it will. Yeah, it will
Yes,
be, and it'll also be on our online schedule page as well.
Okay. Well, sorry for keeping everyone so long tonight. I hope you learned some things. And like I said, if there's anything I didn't cover, I'm sure there's many things I forgot to cover or didn't think of covering. Or if you have any other questions, follow-up questions, something was unclear, please do get in touch with me either by phone or by email. Let me know, and I will be glad to try to answer those questions as best I can. Thank you everyone for coming tonight.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you to the foundation as well.
Yes,
for sponsoring this.
and thanks to all our customers for joining us. And hopefully we'll see you all at the library soon to come by and check out some books.
Thank
With
you.
curbside pickup, of course.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.